Peace, love, and life, family. It's your girl, Morgan Renee Myers, tuning in with you all for another reading of Sister Souljah's book, No Disrespect. It's been a while. Today is Thursday, March 28th, 2019. I don't know when I read the last one, probably a few weeks ago. And so I just had some free time that I wanted to get some reading live in. And of course, I'm going to upload this onto my YouTube channel. Real quick, let me promo myself. I always forget. I am the designer of More of My Crochet Creations. I'm about to rebrand myself to More of My Creations because I am expanding my creative designs to sewing and also canvas art. So these are some signature earrings that I've yet to name. If you can think of a cool name, suggest it for me. But I'm in this like turquoise feel today, or at this time period in my life. I guess with it being spring. I just came back from Atlanta, Georgia. I was out there for almost a week vending at Atlanta's Indie Market, which is every last Saturday of the month. I was a part of a fashion show called Strands of Fiber. Put on by Pink Joy Crochet. And when I got back to North Carolina, I went straight to my nail tech because, honey, my nails was busted. So, yeah, you can check these out on my page. I have an Instagram page as well. which is my brand. Morgan Renee Myers is my name. And My Edutainment Group is my company, my business. And that just means that I put a lot of things that I do up under an umbrella of the Edutainment Group. So I want to entertain you, but I want to educate you at the same time. So whether that be through different skits that I come up with, through my poetry, which I have a book out called The Celibacy Chronicles, which is on Amazon. And I have audio CDs as well. They're only $10. And I also crochet. I read. I'm an educator. So anything that has to do with, it can be fun, but we can also learn from it. I'm about that. So without further ado, I'm going to get into chapter 5 of No Disrespect by Sister Souljah. This chapter is entitled Mona. You will be seeing me sip some of my smoothie throughout this, because I have to go refill on water. That's all I got right now in my house is smoothies. It was the middle of the week, and I was up early shopping in the grocery market for food. I wouldn't need much because on Monday I was scheduled to fly to Zimbabwe, a country located in southern Africa that used to be called Rhodesia. I was excited. It will be my first journey home to Africa. Plus, I will be visiting a country that had recently experienced a revolution and won. The prospect of meeting African men, women, and children who had actually been so oppressed and disgusted that they had picked up guns, driven tanks, and launched missiles to kill their race's enemies was exhilarating. I had never met any Africans like that. I was to stay in Zimbabwe for the entire summer, about 2 months. First, I would visit the big city they call Harare. Then, 2 weeks later, I would travel out into the country past Bendura to the small village of Oh Lord, it's spelled Mtepatepa. Matepa. There I would live with someone from the local area while working in a medical center. After all the lies I had been taught about Africa in public school and in college, I was looking forward to experiencing Africa with my own 2 eyes. Until now, I had only my inner spirit, my reading and research, and my own appreciation of African people born in America on which to base my understanding and opinions. And that's like most of us. We don't know about Africa. The first things we're taught in school is that we're slaves, and that we were pretty much victims and didn't fend for ourselves and was just stolen from our land. We're not taught about people like in Zimbabwe that revolted and killed people that was oppressing them. We weren't taught about our spiritual practices and different things that we were doing and creating far before Christianity, far before any Europeanized education system in America. So she said, until now, I had only my inner spirit, my reading and research, and my own appreciation of African people born in America on which to base my understanding and opinions. Now I will become an expert with primary sources. I will be able to say I had been there. Raising money for the trip was hard. I also didn't make it. I almost didn't make it. At one point, I began to despair. So I got down on my knees and asked God if it was His will for me to take this trip to Zimbabwe. If it was His will, I prayed that He help provide a way to make it happen. Then at the last minute, Adrian, an older girlfriend of mine who was a lawyer specializing in international affairs, gave me the last $800 I needed. Adrian had attended the same Africa program when she was doing her undergraduate work at Princeton University. She told me that she thought my participation would be the greatest experience for me ever. It made me feel so good to see a sister, a black professional woman at a prestigious Park Avenue law firm, still have enough love in her heart to help a younger, economically disadvantaged student like myself at a moment that I was about to be counted out. Adrian was a godsend. And you'll have people like that in your life, that when you stop worrying about how you're going to do something and you just put your mind to it and you know that it is your will, the will of God, the universe will make things happen for you. It will switch things around and you won't know how or why, but it'll just work out for you if it's meant to be. So keep that in mind. I was also grateful to be leaving because I'd been a little depressed. You know, the man stuff and the loneliness. I lived under what sometimes felt like a blessing and a curse. So much love in my heart, so much love to give, and no man balanced enough to give it. I be feeling like that sometimes. It seemed that every time I embarked on a relationship, it would end up with pain. So I slowly pushed my cart through the market, trying to avoid the depression foods like chocolate and cakes and cookies and hot buttered microwave popcorn. I knew that these foods would only depress me more by adding XX waste to my waistline. But the advertisers were tricky because there I stood in the aisle with a bag of hot buttered microwave popcorn that claimed to have less butter and less salt. I thought to myself, less than what? Just then, another cart bumped into mine in the crowded, narrow aisle. I reached my hand back to move my cart out the way, and a voice shot out, "Hey, lady, move that damn cart now," before I screwed my face up and got ready to fight. When I looked up, to my surprise, it was Mona, my old roommate from freshman year. She started laughing and said, "Hey, girl." I got happy and said, "Hey, what's up?" We embraced. It had been so long since we'd seen each other. I hadn't even seen her around campus anymore. She looked me in my eyes with a high level of concentration, something most people never did, and said, "Yeah, well, I've been in the area, but I took the year off and I'm working." I'm trying to remember. Ain't Mona the one that got upset because Sister Souljah was sleeping with some married man? I feel like it was. Yeah, well, I've been in the area, but I took the year off and I'm working. I don't know how much more of that engineering curriculum I could have taken without having a complete breakdown. Yeah, I think it is. Then she smiled and added, "I have an apartment about 8 minutes from here. You should stop by and see me soon." An alarm went off in my head. I remember what Nathan had told me about Mona. She was a lesbian. I wondered if I should accept her invitation to stop by and see her. For a moment, I considered accepting and just ducking her and never showing up. My consternation must have been obvious because Mona chuckled as though she knew exactly what was running through my mind. Let me look that word up, consternation. I feel it means troublesome, bothered, maybe my consternation.
Here's the definition of consternation. Feelings of anxiety or dismay, typically at something unexpected.
Feelings of anxiety or dismay, typically at something unexpected. Okay, so my consternation, my feelings of desire or dismay must have been obvious because Mona chuckled as though she knew exactly what was running through my mind. Or perhaps she was used to people reacting with fearful anxiety to the fact of her homosexuality. Mona said, "Oh, come on, girl. We go way back. Getting together is not going to hurt anything." Then she added, "You'll be safe. Don't worry." I figured this was her way of letting me know that she could tell I knew she was gay. My mind started racing for an excuse, and I quickly said, "Oh, you know what? I finally am going to Africa. I'm scheduled to leave for Zimbabwe on Monday, and I have a whole lot of packing to do." I looked in her eyes, and she was obviously disappointed. Not necessarily disappointed that I wasn't coming over, but disappointed in me as a person for being apprehensive. She stepped closer, bent over, and whispered in my ear, "What's the matter, girl? Are you homophobic or something? What are you afraid of?" Then she pulled away from my face and looked me dead in my eye again. I thought to myself, homophobia, a fear of homosexuality. Am I guilty of that, and should I be? It was a deep question to ponder right there in the aisle, so I put it aside and said to myself, "This is Mona. I lived with her for a year, and it was cool. We have been through thick and thin. I live with her. Okay. Why not stop by and check her out? The only thing that was different between now and 2 years ago was that I was now fully aware of her lifestyle, which made me uncomfortable. Before, I didn't know that she was gay. I was real relaxed and we chilled, had fun, and I was myself. So I said, I tell you what, I can stop by on Sunday evening. By that time, I'll be packed and ready to fly out Monday. She smiled happily and said, all right, girl, since I know you like to cook, since I know you like to eat, I'll cook dinner. So don't eat before you come. I'm going to stuff you with healthy, good tasting foods, and we got so much to talk about. I took her address and phone number. She took mine, and we agreed to meet at 6 o'clock. Now, let me pause right there because I have a lot of friends in the LGBTQ community. And I feel like sometimes with the gay stuff that I've heard the comment a lot of times, well, why are straight people worried about gay people or worried about who we having sex with and this and that? And sometimes I don't even think that is that straight people are worried about them. It's just that gay people would throw their gayness in your face. Like, just be you. Like, if that's who you are and what you do and how you like to have sex, cool. But that don't mean you have to try to entice nobody or try to, like, I've had gay women come up to me and try to, like, just be like real cynical. It feels like they're just trying to turn you out. I'm like, let me like penis. Like, don't do all that to me. Just be gay. Let me out of it. By Sunday morning, I was finished packing and had everything stacked by the door for my departure. I was ready to throw everything in a cab and go straight to the airport. Even though the plane wasn't leaving until 4 in the afternoon on the following day, I was advised that on an international flight, you should arrive at the airport about 2 hours early. I would definitely be on time. The phone rang. It was my little sister, the middle one, and I could tell from her voice that she was fighting to hold back tears. What's the matter? I asked. Me and Leon had a fight. It was terrible. The baby was crying through the whole thing. You should have heard the things he said to me. Well, he packed his things and left. This time he said it's for good. He said he got a new girl and another place to stay. I remained quiet for a minute. I thought it was good that Leon had left for good. He was a fool who created more responsibilities for himself than his dull mind could handle. I knew my sister didn't want to hear that, though. She always resisted the truth. What she wanted was to be comforted. Can you come over? I'm so depressed. I know you're leaving tomorrow. I'm sorry, but I need you to do me a favor. What's the favor? I asked. I didn't trust my little sister and her ill thought out schemes. Just something. I'll explain when you get here, she said. I'll come, but you'll have to pick me up. The trains are too slow on Sunday, and I'm supposed to be doing something tonight around 6. By mid-afternoon, my sister arrived sporting a blue and purple bruise on the side of her eye. I grew angry, too angry to say anything. I could feel the heat rising from my ankles all the way up until it had consumed my entire body. I got in her car and said nothing. Finally, on the turnpike headed toward her apartment, I asked, what happened to your face? Me and Leon were play wrestling the other day and he accidentally kicked me in my face. What do you think? I'm stupid? How is it that you were just playing with the man who just packed up and left you today? That bruise can't be more than 2 days old. Her face clouded with a painful expression I had never seen before. Holding back the tears, she said, I'll tell you everything. Just give me a chance. Let me do it my way. When we arrived at her apartment, she went next door and picked up her baby who she apparently had left with a neighbor. When she returned, I held my niece, who was only 3 months old. I looked at her beautiful, innocent face and thought to myself, little girl, if you're going to survive in this cruel world, you're going to have to be a lot smarter and stronger than your mother. My sister sat down and began to explain. She said that when she first met Leon, he was a different person. He was loving and attentive. She said that they used to do everything together. But ever since the pregnancy, he had turned against her. He had undergone a dramatic change. She didn't think it was because of the baby. After all, it was Leon who was always flushing her birth control pills down the toilet because he said they weren't good for her. Since he flushed her pills and wouldn't wear a rubber, she figured he must want a child. He was ecstatic when she first told him she was pregnant, but after about 6 months, he started disappearing, coming home drunk, acting stupid. One night, her girlfriend called her from the club called Cheetahs and told her Leon was there humping some other girl all around the dance floor. She told her that he had been there last week too, but she hadn't wanted to say anything. When Leon got home, my sister had asked him about the club and the girl. By way of an answer, he gave her a black eye. At this point, my mind drifted from my sister's exact words and entered in its own realm. Her words were painful to to me and moved me to want to do something violent to Leon. My intellectual mind attempted to calm my emotions down, rationalizing that Leon was just like some other black men who had been raised without a father and without a clue of what a man was and what was required of him. But my emotional mind spoke up louder and louder, blocking out my intellect as I envisioned several different violent ways that I could deal with this fool. The idea of physical violence against women was something that I rarely had to think about and had never had to personally deal with. I felt that when the sickness of a physically abusive man combined with the kind of vulnerable women who exuded the feeling of not being in control, there will always be violence. Other women radiate danger, that if you ever even look like you're thinking about hitting them, they'll blow your head off. Well, I was the latter kind of woman, and I had never been hit or been in the presence of any man who even remotely looked like he was going to strike me. My sister was finishing her story and telling me her scatterbrained scheme. So, the reason why I didn't tell you about the hitting thing was because I know how bad your temper is when you get mad, and I thought you might kill Leon or something. And I understand that you probably think he deserved it, but he is the baby's father. How would I explain to her that she never met her father because my sister, her aunt, killed him? That's a stupid question because you have to explain to her why she never met her father anyway, because the fool isn't strong enough to hang around and handle his responsibility as a father. Either way, dead or alive, he is going to be absent. My sister paid me no mind and said, I called you here because I want you to talk to Leon. I was never good at talking. You always was. Besides, he respects you a lot more than he respects me. He talks good about you all the time. He reads anything you write in the paper and everything anybody ever prints about you. He looks up to you. When we used to fight, he used to ask me, beg me not to tell you anything about it. I looked at my sister and felt sorry for her. It wasn't her fault she was so weak-minded. My mother was not the same person when she raised her that she was when she raised me. I knew he was going to leave, she continued, so I took his Rolex. I knew if I took it and hid it when he left, he had no choice but to come back for it. His grandfather gave it to him before he died. It's the only expensive thing he had. So when he comes back for it, I want you to talk to him and convince him not to leave me. I love him. Besides, I can't afford this apartment without his income, not to mention the other bills. You what? You love him? Don't be ridiculous. You don't love him. You just used to him. He's like a bad habit you think is good for you just because you've been doing it for so long. Listen, you see this child? I asked, holding up the baby. Do you love her? No, I do, she said. Well, she's the one who's important. She doesn't need to suffer because you keep making bad decisions. If you love her, you'll become strong for her. How could you love him when he doesn't love you? Does a man who loves his woman bash her face in when she's 6 months pregnant? Does a man who loves his child leave her when she's 3 months old? Both of you don't know the meaning of love, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Give me that Rolex. What for? I'm going to sell it first thing tomorrow morning. I know I can get at least $2,000. I should get a lot more, but the pawn shops always cheat you anyway. But he's going to come looking for it, she said, concerned more for Leo than for herself and her own child. Yeah, and you're going to tell the bastard that you haven't seen it. You don't know where it is. Then you're going to play a mind game with him the way he plays a mind game with you, and you're going to say, maybe you gambled it away one of them nights you was out drinking. Later that afternoon, I called a locksmith service and had the locks changed. Because she's living on the building's 4th floor, I didn't have to worry about the windows. I called my mother and told her that my sister and the baby needed to stay there for about 2 weeks. I promised to get the money from the watch in the morning. She was to take it and budget it for the rest of the summer. Leon sure wouldn't have made $2,000 that summer at a job he had anyway. I told her that just as soon as I got back from Africa, I would get a part-time job and give her money for the baby. We had a talk about life. I said that many times as women, we feel we need a man. And the truth of the matter is, we do need a man, but we need a good man. And the truth of the matter is, we do need a man, but we need a good man. A bad man is not worth the trouble. It's all right to struggle with a brother, to work together to make a better future, to help him out, but physical abuse can never be tolerated under any circumstances. I told her that I was her sister, and that meant that I would be there to help her. We would raise her baby together. We would raise her strong. We didn't need Leon. He was a hindrance, not a help. I gave her the phone number to a lawyer I knew in her neighborhood. If she had any problems, she was to call him and use my name. Connections. Ooh. Who you know. He would advise her about restraining orders and any legal matters concerning the baby. I said I probably wouldn't be in touch because I would be so far away, but I expected her to use her common sense. If she returned to Leon, I told her I would stop speaking to her for good. Even though this was not the truth, I knew that threat would keep her away from him for at least the 2 months I was away. My sister dropped me at Mona's apartment. I was taking a chance because I was 2.5 hours late. Mona might no longer be here. I decided to stop by anyway, figuring that if I didn't give it a try, she'd take it the wrong way. I asked my sister to wait until she actually saw Mona at the door before driving off so I wouldn't be stranded without a ride. Mona opened the door with attitude. I stood at the door exhausted from the day's ordeal. Mona wasn't sympathetic. She cut her eyes at me as though I was some kind of bullshitting con woman. She stood with her hand on her hip and her summer worsted white wool V-neck sweater draped over her short cut-off jeans. She was barefooted, well pedicured, and long-legged. She waited for an explanation. I found myself presenting her with an excuse. Sorry, Mona, my sister got in some bad trouble with her man. I had to go straighten it out at the last minute. I hope I didn't wreck your dinner. Come in, she said snootily, letting the door close on me at his own pace. Most of the dinner was salads, macaroni salad, potato salad, and health salad. So, of course, they're still fresh. The fish dish is cold, but I can always heat it up. Look, Mona, I said sincerely, I don't want to argue. I didn't mean to offend you. Seriously, under any other circumstances, I would have called. But I had a bunch of very important things to take care of unexpectedly and only a few hours to do it in. I was growing impatient with her spoiled ways. She was making me feel as if she was my mother, or worse yet, my man. All right, don't worry about it. I really thought you weren't coming, so I made other plans. But that's not until later tonight. We can chill, talk, eat dinner, and I'll take you home on my way out. Then she sighed, threw her hands up, and said, Welcome to my little spot. I looked around her comfortable living room. It had the feeling of a place you wouldn't want to leave often. Something like a den or a cave that an animal who had to hibernate would be comfortable in for an entire season. The floors were parquet. What does that mean? I don't be doing this fancy stuff. Parquet? No.
Parquet around Lexington. Sure.
No. Maybe it's parquet. Parquet?
All right, park around Greensboro.
No. Okay, let me see how it's spelled. I lost my spot. All right, don't worry about it. I really thought you weren't coming. Welcome to my little spot. And then Parquet. Parquet.
Parquet.
Parquet. Parquet. Flooring composed of wooden blocks arranged in a geometric pattern. The ground floor of a theater in an auditorium. I need to see an image of this. Parquet.
Parquet.
Parquet. Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I looked around her comfortable living room. It had a feeling of a place you wouldn't want to leave often. Something like a den or a cave that an animal who had to hibernate would be comfortable in for an entire season. The floors were parquet, the wood well polished and maintained. A white fluffy rug lay tossed over part of it. The ceiling had track lighting with bulbs of varying intensity. Some lights were carefully arranged to highlight the black and white photographs that decorated the walls. The pictures were much like Mona's personality. Physical. One life-size photo was of a pair of a perfect woman's legs. They were long and soft. The emphasis in the photo was on the muscle structure. The muscles were defined but not hard and masculine, obviously feminine, well kept and exercised. Another large photo was of a neck, throat, and the beginnings of a chin. It was a woman leaning her head backward, but instead of the usual emphasis on the beauty of the face and lips, it was on the trachea. It was the trachea that was important. The light shone on the narrow neck and the muscles that undergirded the chin. Mona's bookcase held carefully arranged scientific texts. They included words I didn't understand, like thermonuclear and molecular motion and electromagnetic fields. On top of the bookcase was a set of fancy candle holders with half-used candles with hardened wax stuck in the drip position down the sides. Mona was fortunate. Her apartment was not scorching with the heat of summer. Instead, it enjoyed the comfort and control of a central air conditioning breeze. It was neither stuffing nor too cold. I imagine in the bedroom there must have been an incense stick burning because the air had a sweet smell. It wasn't overpowering like a newly purchased deodorized air freshener. It lingered lightly in a pleasant way. The dinner table was made of glass, polished and decorated with the niceties that are usually collected by a person that intends to stay as opposed to just passing through. The plates were arranged, as were the bowls, some made of glass, some appropriately wooden. I looked at Mona. I could see there was no real reason to feel bad that she had left school for a year. She was obviously doing quite well for herself. In fact, from the looks of things, she was doing much better than me. She had a fly geometric haircut that looked perfect as usual. Her open closet door revealed high-quality linen, silks, and wools. She was always high fashion. She'd always been willing to work as hard as necessary to maintain that lifestyle and appearance. So, I said, what's been going on with you, girl? Looks like you're doing fine. Yeah, well, after our freshman year, I got a summer job at Bell Laboratories. I did so well that they allowed me to come back during our school breaks. I was surprised at the pay I was making because it was more than I had ever raked in. So I got in good with my supervisor, Gerald. I hung around late, learned things that the other interns didn't know. Then I got around to popping the question. What if I take a year hiatus from school? Can I land a full-time position? Gerald said he'd gladly give me his recommendation. He told me that I have to leave and re-enter school in good academic standing because Bell require all of their employees to be upwardly mobile and scientifically proficient and updated. So anyway, to make a long story short, I'm getting paid well, and I even worked it out so that I can return in September with Bell financing part of my education. She smiled. She seemed genuinely satisfied and proud of her accomplishments. I was also impressed. She walked to the refrigerator and pulled out a bowl of big purple grapes. She placed them on the table and said, "Here, have some before dinner." "So, girl, I know you're really happy about going to Africa tomorrow. This must be your lifetime dream." "I'm definitely hyped up," I said. "I think I'm going to come back much deeper. I'll probably see and learn so many things I never knew." She started laughing and said, "Oh, God, could the world take it if you got any deeper?" "What do you mean by that?" I asked. "Well, you're already the deepest person I know. I may not be on campus, but I still read the campus news. You're involved in everything. You're out front, vocal, and concerned. Don't you think we're kind of young for you to be so worried about the whole world?" "Well, Mona," I said, "you're a hard worker. You do what you have to do. I'm sure you didn't get this beautiful apartment from kicking back, taking it light. I guess the difference is I do what I do for myself, for my own enjoyment and benefit. You, on the other hand, put yourself out there for other people. You hardly ever worry about yourself, how you feel, or the things that you need." Mona looked me in my eye and then looked at my clothing as if she were comparing hers and mine. Or maybe she was suggesting that by helping others, I was somehow shortchanging myself. "Well, girl, you got it going on," I said, "but not everybody is interested in the same thing. I mean, I look at you and I say Mona's beautiful as usual. Nobody can mess with you on that level. But at the same time, clothes and beauty and all that is not my priority. Not when all this crazy stuff is going on in the world." I feel the same way because I would wear the same thing, look half crazy. My friends have to teach me about looking presentable and caring about fashion and all of that because I don't be caring. And I make clothes. Ain't it weird? "Mona's beautiful as you..." Not okay. She rolled her eyes and said, "See, that's exactly what I mean. There's always going to be a bunch of stuff going on in the world, this country and our community. But why do you have to be involved in it? If every individual took care of their own business, the world wouldn't need people like you to carry everybody else's weight on their shoulders." And then she smiled and added, "I mean, I admire you. The things that you stand for are cool, but I know niggas. They basically selfish. If you got some sort of trouble, they wouldn't give a damn. They wouldn't even lift a finger to help you. So why do you feel responsible for other people's lives?" "'Cause, Mona, there's a reason for everything. There's a reason why our community is disorganized and in last place. But not everybody knows and understands why. Then you got some people, black college students and professionals, who get the opportunity to find out why through their studies. And what do? They isolate themselves, abandon their responsibilities. There's no way to break the cycle. If you know something, you should feel obligated to teach it to our people so we can move forward." "So anyway," she said, she was bored and wanted to change the subject. "What happened with your sister?" "Well, she had a baby daughter with some brother who couldn't handle the responsibility. So I'm trying to help her put her life back on track so she can so she can take charge of herself again." Mona laughed heartily, then stood up and blurted out, "You have such a nice, poetic way of putting things. A brother who couldn't handle his responsibilities. That one sentence represents most of the black men in this country, and you just say it so nice and matter-of-factly. What did he do? Did he beat the shit out of her? Because that's what usually happens, you know." My emotions had been building inside of me. Just remembering what Leon did to my sister made me want to cry and strike out at the same time. Mona's biting sarcasm was inexplicable to me. I couldn't understand if she was sincerely trying to make a point or if she was trying to hurt me by rubbing something painful in my face. I wasn't sure if she was trying to help or if she was compensating and covering up some pain or bitterness of her own. Wanting to skip the torture the topic represented for me, I played it down. So I said it wasn't a regular thing, like an everyday beating or anything. It was more like one major incident that kept getting worse and worse. He's out of there for now anyway. I made sure of that, so that's the good news. Yeah, it's that one major incident that can kill something inside of you, though. It's not like it has to happen to you every day for it to leave a deep scar, Mona said sadly. Seeing this as a verbal entrance into Mona's world, I decided to take my cue and begin to unravel the Mona mystery. After all, even when we were roommates, we'd have fun, but below her surface optimism and joy, I thought I sensed a real unhappiness. There was an uneasiness within her that came out as a bitter Antimale sentiment. What are these words? Antimale. Antimale. Okay, no.
According to Wikipedia,
That's not what I'm. Let me just spell it. Antimale. Definition. It ain't coming up. Misandry is the hatred of contempt for or prejudice against men. That's not what I asked for. Okay, anti-male. Sometimes in this book the words don't be spaced out. Some typing errors in here. So there was an uneasiness within her that came out as a bitter anti-male sentiment, leading to leading to a thoroughgoing Zionism toward life. She wasn't alone. There seemed to be a growing number of college girls who shared this outlook. Many, like Mona, had embraced a gay lifestyle. So is this what happened to you? I asked. What do you mean happened to me? Abuse, I said. Physical abuse by a black man? You know what's sickening to me, she said? The idea that something had to have happened to me for me to be gay. This is what you're talking about, isn't it, when you ask what happened to me? I guess it is, I said. But it's a little more than the fact that you're gay. It's the immediate opposition you have toward any male-female relationships. It's the quiet anger, the quiet dislike of men. I can only assume that it's related to something that happened to you. There you go again, jump into the defense of the brothers. Just because I don't like the fact that men routinely abuse women, beat them, rape them, lead them on, play with their heads, doesn't mean that I'm guilty of not liking them. What it means is that they're guilty of being abusive, period. Let's put the blame where it belongs. Listen, Mona, I've met all kinds of men, and I've never been beaten, raped, or molested by any of them. But I also believe that good and evil exist in the world, and that white supremacy is the primary force that has shaped the mindset of both our African men and women, creating a people who are not living the way we would naturally and culturally live. Instead, we're just reacting and reflecting other people's pressures on us. I also believe that sometimes we as women who don't take the time to understand our history and its impact on the behavior of our people make bad choices unknowingly, and then we suffer the consequences of the poor choices we make. Oof, let me underline that. She roared with dismissive laughter. Yeah, what do you call what that asshole Nathan did to you? He may not have slapped the stuffing out of you, but he did a hell of a butcher's job on your mind. That's mental abuse. I heard you lost 30 pounds and had to drop 2 courses behind that fool. I could have told you what time it was with him from the jump. But there's one thing I know about women like you who talk all that black stuff. You need to be face to face with the evil that men do before you become believers. I think it's a shame, but it seems like women would rather wait until after they get their asses kicked than listen to their girlfriends who are right there by their side from the beginning and through the whole thing. So are you saying Nathan abused me because he was a sexually confused male? I'm saying Nathan abused you with deceit, and you know he did. He lied to you just like they all do. They lie, promise you things they know damn well they can't deliver, manipulate your thoughts, and toss your head around like it's some kind of Spalding. I think that's a basketball, ain't it? But Nathan didn't do that because he's a man, and men are naturally abusive. He did it because he was miserly at a young and impressionable age. Besides, it would seem like you would understand the whole idea of keeping your sexual identity a secret because you did it so well when you were my roommate. When were you, a woman, going to let me in on the big secret? Mona paused. I knew I was stabbing her with my words, but I was trying to get her to stop being so self-righteous as though black men were responsible for all that's bad with the world and black women were guiltless, harmless victims. Whatever, she responded, casting my words aside. The bottom line is that women are more compassionate, more feeling. We have a deeper connection with one another than we could ever have with them. I don't hate men. Hell, I have a brother. I love him too. But as far as man goes, I don't want to share anything beyond a surface level, limited, non-physical friendship. I know when I'm talking to a woman, she understands what I feel because she feels the same thing. We all menstruate. We all have cramps. Most of us have been hurt by them, and we have a deep understanding of love, sensuality, and sensitivity. As I listened to Mona's words, I tried to decipher her logic. It was true that she had been there for me through the affair with Nathan, but it was true that I had foolishly ignored some of her good advice. I also agreed that her conviction that women had an inherently deep connection with and understanding of one another. After all, women all experience the same bodily functions, so it stood to reason that we would be highly likely to be more understanding of each other's emotional lives. But I didn't see why that meant two women should end up in the bed together. I didn't understand what this had to do with sexual desire. Perhaps at this point I should have said to hell with all this freaky stuff and left, but I wanted to understand every aspect of black life, even those I found personally disagreeable. Besides, I wanted to challenge Mona. For me to give up on the conversation would have given her the upper hand. She'd have conveniently dismissed me as homophobic. I felt some gays use this term to silence people who didn't share their opinions and to excuse themselves from being questioned, criticized, or challenged. I agree with that statement. Then, in a clever twist of words, they would try to leave you with the impression that the only issue was your fear of them and not their questionable behavior or attitudes. So, what do? I asked. What do you mean? She smiled invitingly. Oh, okay, hold on, let me read this over. So, what do? I asked. What do you mean? She smiled invitingly. I mean, explain it to me, I said in an open-minded way. I'll be happy to, but after dinner. Right now, I'm going to put the food together for you. I know you must be starving. Besides, this may be your last grand meal of the summer. Mona got up and went to her stereo. She turned on some Tracy Chapman album and my spirit tossed uncomfortably. Chapman's music had a tendency to depress me. Somehow it sounded like victim music. It wasn't necessarily her lyrics, but I really didn't know them. Rather, it was the emotion created by the music itself. I prefer empowering music, whether rap, gospel, rhythm, and blues, or jazz. It didn't much matter so long as it made your soul feel good, strong, and aggressive. I watched her as she moved around the kitchen. She was still a mystery to me. She had ducked my question about her past and whatever it was that led her to the decisions she had made in her life. Mona was clever, unquestionably intelligent. She revealed no remorse about her lifestyle. I was convinced she harbored a hidden pain, and I was sure that she shared her insecurities with herself and her lover in her quiet moments. Yes, she was beautiful. She had the type of beauty that would make any black man surrender his heart and wallet. She didn't fit any of those stereotypes of a butch. She was feminine and soft all over. Her movements were fluid, not staccato, girlish, not boyish. I wonder how she let other gay women know that she was down with the gay life. Come and get it, she called, having taken the trouble to make everything look better than a table in a festive restaurant. Just as I started to say my dinner prayers, the telephone rang. Mona wasn't praying. She never did, at least not in my presence. But I didn't make a judgment about that. It was her choice. She got up to answer the phone, and I continued praying. Oh, God, thank you for this food. Hello, Mona said in a sexy voice. Thank you for the nourishment. Not again. Don't even try it, Mona said. She sounded disappointed. Thank you for your love, protection, and most of all, your guidance. No, that's what you said last time. Whatever you have to do, cancel it because I'm coming anyway. I'll be over at 11:30. That should be good enough. Mona slammed down the phone. Amen. I finished my prayer. I looked at Mona casually as if I hadn't heard her telephone conversation. I watched as she plastered a smile on her face, took a deep breath, and headed back to the dinner table, trying to look calm. I asked her to put on some other music, trying to lighten the mood. She put on Whitney Houston, sat down to eat, and said, I know you don't drink, but I'm going to have a glass of wine. You're not going to bug out on me or give me a lecture, are you? I never have. I won't start now. She gulped down the drink and seemed to relax. She took a deep breath and said, So, how do we do it? Well, the first thing for me is the attraction. I see a woman and I look at her face and feel her out. I want to feel her life, her experience, what she's been through. Once I feel the mood in her, the sentiment, I connect with it. Now, I'm not going to lie. Her physical appearance is at least half the attraction. She has to have clean hair and a firm body. Like she works out, but not fanatically. I like things like clavicles. The bone right here. She took her French manicure fingernails and ran them from the top of her shoulder to the bottom of the neckline. You see how defined that is? That's what I like. I like breasts because they're real points of pleasure. A lot of men don't know how to suck a breast, but I'm good at it because I know what I want to feel when it's happening to me. Mona seemed fascinated and turned on by her own candid talk. She must have realized how graphic she was being because she quickly said, "Oh, I hope I'm not embarrassing you. You did ask." I urged her to continue. I wanted my imagination to wander with hers to test myself. I wanted to test my real, unprotected, non-political, unidentified feelings. Anyway, she said, the breast should never be flat. The stomach should never be flabby because that ruins the whole picture. The next thing has got to be flexibility. Nobody wants it stiff. Making love should be physical, like a dance or a piece of artwork. As I sat at the dinner table, I tried to imagine sex with a woman. I tried to clear my mind of all prior prejudice and just focus on the idea of sex with a woman. I could see that it would be gentle and soft. Having my breasts sucked properly would definitely turn me on. But then, what next? The image of two vaginas, two sets of pubic hairs rubbing together did nothing for me. It meant nothing sexually. It meant nothing in terms of creating life. Kisses, on the other hand, were always sensual to me. They prepared my body for all that was to follow. Kisses intensify the sensitivity, so a touch would mean so much more. But how disappointed I imagine I would be to receive a warm, sensual kiss and have my body ignited, only to have my vagina stimulated by a small finger or an aggravating plastic or rubber vibrator. I had to assume it would be aggravating because I found even the thin rubber of a condom a nuisance. And although I still use them, it decreased the feeling substantially. I couldn't stomach a fake penis no matter how much it was disguised or explained away. Plus, for me, the hardness, the suction, the power and strength and gentle roughness of a man was a continual turn on. Massages are the best, Mona continued, because they relax you. Now, somebody like you would need a good massage to help you loosen up all those points of tension. You got any tea? I interrupted. Yeah, but I don't have any donuts, she laughed, remembering our freshman feast. Believe me, I don't want any donuts. I'm watching my weight. You're doing a good job. You look pretty good. All you have to do is tighten up here and here, she said, pinching my waistline. But you're kind of different. A woman will be attracted to you not for the normal reasons. Not that you're not pretty, because you are. Because you have a power. You have a quiet power and a lot of strength. It almost feels as if you can influence anyone to do anything. But the good thing is you don't use that power a lot. Some people would abuse it. Your presence alone makes people want to question themselves. Then she paused, turned around, and smiled. I guess somebody would have to be pretty powerful to get you to question yourself. She brought the tea to the table. It was herbal tea. That was the best for me. But I also noticed that it was sleepy time, a brand I had never tasted. Oh, are you trying to knock me out so that I miss my plane? I said jokingly. No, girl, this will just relax you. I told you have to learn to relax. Don't worry, I'll get you home tonight without a doubt. So I sipped my tea and Mona continued to entertain me. She didn't need any props. She performed her entire drama with just her body alone. Soon she checked her watch and in panic said, "Oh, I gotta get moving, girl. I got a date. I'm gonna jump in the shower. You chill on the couch and I'll be right out. Then I'll drop you home. You look tired anyway." I lay down on the couch while Mona ran around pulling out fresh fashions for her date. The careful attention she paid to each detail of the outfit she pulled out reminded me of myself when I was getting ready to see a brother I had a crazy feeling for. After she picked out her clothes, she proceeded to wiggle out the ones she had on, letting them drop casually to the floor. She seemed really focused on all her movements. I tried to figure out if she was doing the same thing we heterosexual women did when we were trying to entice a man. That is, sometimes we showed a man our body while pretending that we didn't know he could see it. Maybe this was her way of upping the ante. Perhaps she wanted me to see the goods as her final effort in persuading me to enter her world. Peace, Brother Elwood. I questioned myself. How exactly did I feel being in the apartment with an admitted and committed lesbian who I used to room with? Was I hiding anything? So I tested myself too. I allowed my eyes to explore her body. There was no doubt that Mona was graciously structured. Her own breasts were as full as she said she required of her lovers. Her lips were thick and her dark skin rich. She was an African queen. But sexually, I felt nothing. There was no desire in my heart or between my legs to bring my aesthetic admiration on Mona's obvious charms to a sexual level. After Mona showered, the phone rang. I yelled, asking her if she wanted me to get up to get it. She abruptly said, "No thanks." She just jumped out the shower, grabbing a towel, but barely using it to cover herself. Facing the other direction, I pretended not to be interested in the call, but I listened anyway. "How is it that you put this work before you put me?" she asked the caller. "But I haven't seen you in damn near a week." She was trying to lower her voice so I couldn't hear. "Yeah, but you said you were going to finish that 3 days ago." There was a pause. "Fuck that, girl. I'm not stupid. You know, it doesn't take that long to do a board," she said, raising her voice. "No, I think you're playing games with me." "Sure, and all the while you and Tanya were working on this together, right? You know I would have come if I knew. That's why you tried to discourage me." Mona, now incredibly pissed off, picked up the phone and went to her bedroom and slammed the door. Her voice was now muffled. As I lay there on the living room couch, thinking about how her conversation would have been me talking to any man I was having a relationship with, I dozed off into a light sleep. I dreamed I was in Coney Island, an amusement park I had gone to once or twice in my childhood. I was in the fun house, the place with the mirrors that could make a fat girl appear to be skinny or a short girl appear to be tall. They could make the most attractive face and mangle the reflection so that the face would be unrecognizable. I wasn't alone. I thought I could see a girl who resembled Mona. At that moment, I woke up. My body jolted and I opened my eyes. Mona was sitting on the edge of the couch in her silk panties and camisole. She had one hand in my hair, massaging my head in one place on the right side of my breast. "Girl, get off me." My eyes opened wide. I gasped as she motioned for me to relax and quickly said, "Girl, I can make you feel good, better than you ever felt before, and I promise no pain at the end." I grabbed both of Mona's hands off me and held them firmly so she would be certain of my disapproval. I scolded her, saying, "Mona, I love you and I dig you and we can still be friends. But no, we can't have a relationship because I'm not a lesbian." "You're just scared. I'll teach you how. I know you've been hurt by these men just like me. I'll show you how to relax. From the looks of things, Mona, you've been hurt by some guy from the past. Since you can't confide in me, that will always be a mystery to me. But somehow you've allowed the experience to turn you off to all men. But sleeping with a woman does not guarantee you anything. Women, too, can be power-hungry exploiters. Women, too, can be two-time and low-down cheats. Women, too, can be emotionally abusive and insensitive. I mean, damn, Mona." I've been stood up. "Me by a man, you by a woman. I've been lied to, you've been lied to, I've been lonely, you've been lonely. But guess what? It doesn't matter how good you can make me feel, Mona. When I think about it, I imagine there are a lot of things that can make me feel good. Maybe you could bring me some level of sexual pleasure. So could a lot of people and a lot of things. That doesn't make it right, though." Mona, who was usually a tower of strength and opinion, had tears in her eyes. I didn't know if it was her ego was hurt because I didn't want to participate or if she was touched in some way by what I said. Then she let loose her anger and shouted, "Right, right. Who's to say what's wrong and what's right and who should be doing what? Who's in charge anyway?" "Mona, fuck being hysterical. Let's look at this thing rationally. What are you going to do? Move in with a woman? Marry a woman? Where do you see yourself 20 years from now? What will you be doing? You talked about that deep connection and feeling of being a woman. Well, one of the deepest feelings a woman can experience is giving birth, the creation of life. Sex between two women cannot bring about life. It's impossible because it wasn't meant to be. There are plenty of alternatives," she shot back. "Get with it. There's artificial insemination, adoption, all types of options." "Okay, let's look at it like this. If everyone were to adopt the gay lifestyle, what would that bring about?" "What do you mean?" "Look at it like a mathematical equation. If everyone were to adopt the gay lifestyle, the end result would be the death of an entire community because the so-called gay lifestyle cannot produce life. Two men can't make a baby any more than two women can. Secondly, if a gay community were, for the sake of its survival, to turn to artificial insemination, what would you produce?" She stood there sternly as if I was stupid. She uttered one word, "Children." "What kind of children?" "A whole community of children who didn't know either their biological mother or father. A whole network of entangled genetics. You'll have a child whose feeling and characteristics you may not understand and can't explain because above and beyond some comments on an application, you won't know where those characteristics and feelings come from. You'll have children to whom you have to explain that for the pleasure of being with another woman, you were so selfish that you brought him or her into a world where the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, and the community says his same-sex parents are wrong. What church will they go to? Or what will you teach them spiritually? Will you teach them to love God but to disrespect what God lays down as laws?" I don't know, Mona. The whole thing seems like an extension of confusion to me. Now pause. I may not understand or agree with the homosexual lifestyle, but just like other things in Christianity, when it comes to homosexuality, they always focus on it being like against God, an abomination to God. But this same woman who was telling her that had premarital sex, she was sleeping with a man that had a wife, so she was helping somebody commit adultery. I'm sure she's probably lied before, maybe stole something. Like, being gay isn't the end all be all sin. Like, there's plenty of sin that people indulge in, but we just like to focus on that mostly. Disrespect what God lays down as laws. I don't know, Mona. The whole thing seems like an extension of confusion to me. Mona grew uncontrollable. You're always talking bullshit. That's what I hate about you. You can never relax. You never open up. God and community, black this, white that. It's all bullshit. I'm from Brooklyn. Don't none of that shit work anyway. Mona, all I have to offer you is sisterhood. Real sisterhood. The kind I offer to my own blood sisters. It's what makes me able to work hard and sacrifice to keep another woman from feeling that same pain I felt or the pain of our ancestors. But what isn't for me is sexual. That's a wrong turn. It's an irrational response to a very complex question. You should understand what that means. If you want to understand Brooklyn and the many confused dark people, you should realize how it has scarred the men and the women to the point where we've even forgotten how to love one another. But what I can't do is do whatever people are doing just because they figured out a way to make it look right. The gulf between us was too big to bridge. The evening would end badly. I continued to feel that Mona's embrace of a lesbian life was due more to inner weakness and her victimization as a black woman than out of any genetic compulsion. Mona was closed and wounded. She wasn't interested in dealing with any criticism of herself. She wasn't interested in change, nor was she interested in viewing herself as part of a larger struggle or larger community of African people. Her entire focus was on self and pleasure, and even though she had chosen lesbianism for herself, she was still not happy. Nor could I be shaken from my belief that homosexuality, while perhaps offering some individuals relief from their pain, was nevertheless a way of avoiding our people's need to build strong, life-giving, and enduring family structures rooted in our original African culture that withstand the many stresses to which our people are daily subjected. That is the end of chapter 5. Mona from Sister Souljah's No Disrespect. I appreciate you all tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. And I will be back with chapter 6, Chance. I think that's the next chapter. Yes, some other day. Peace, love, and light. Be great. Be love. Drink some water. Get your exercise in. Make sure you're eating fruits and veggies. I'm drinking a smoothie, a pineapple, mango, strawberry smoothie. So, yeah.